You might.
Oh, that's the good stuff.
Welcome back, everybody, to Goodwill Podcasting with Dan and Stone, your movie podcast that today is reviewing Highest to Lowest, the newest joint from director Spike Lee that is out this weekend in some theaters, which we will probably talk about here in a little bit. But we were lucky enough to have watched it, even though my experience is very difficult, and I want to tell Dan about that here in a little bit. But what is very interesting is that this is a loose adaptation, I will say, of Akira Kurosawa's movie from 1963, High and Low. And me and Dan both today just watched that for the first time. So this will be a really interesting conversation as we incorporating our thoughts on that movie into this one. But what were your thoughts going into this, Highest to Lowest? I mean, you had never watched the original, so
I was excited. I like Spike Lee. I want to say about 8 to 10 of his movies. Generally a fan. There's nothing I've hated. And there's a couple things I really, really loved. So I think I was overall really anticipating it, but I do think, the number one factor there was Denzel. Denzel I talk about him a lot. He's one of the actors I think growing up was the most important to me, and like someone I always gravitated towards, like, checking out his movies. I think he brings a lot of energy. I think he brings something fresh to every single role that he takes. He's always trying. I've never seen a bad Denzel performance. He's been in some bad movies, but he's never phoning it in. I think he takes it really seriously without being like, a pretentious asshole. I think he just works hard. Coming up, I think he was like a garbage man. Like, he was busting his ass. He's busted his ass his whole life. He's busted his ass to get into acting. I think he is a theater actor, which he always says, I'm not a Hollywood is like a side gig to him. He is a stage actor, and like that's how he views himself. And I think those people are just better. Like, they're always just kind of have a leg up. So I like the way he does pretty much everything. So I was just excited to get to see him act, in the theater. That's always fun. So yeah, generally excited, but I hadn't seen the original, so a little bit unsure story-wise.
So I know you just came out with your ranking of your Denzel Washington performances, which you had Malcolm X at number 1. I'm guessing that would be your favorite Spike Lee movie as well so far that you've seen?
Yeah.
Okay.
I love Malcolm X. I think is perfect. I think it's one of the best movies of all time. I really like BlacKkKlansman. I really like 25th Hour, which I would recommend you watch. I think you'd like it. Edward Norton is in the lead. That's one we talked about Spike didn't write, but still very good. Kind of deals with 9/11 and New York and how that impacted the city in a roundabout way. He Got Game, we talked about. I think it's up and down. Old Boy, I said I didn't hate any of his movies. That movie's really bad. Do the Right Thing, I'm way more lukewarm on than a lot of people, which I've talked about a little bit before. And then Jungle Fever, I think, is good. School Days, I think, is good. I think there's something else I'm forgetting, but then Bamboozled is my second favorite from him. I love that movie. So
I'll say, if anybody likes Spike Lee and then also Denzel Washington, the second episode that we're going to release this week is talking about the films that they've collaborated on together that we haven't discussed before, because I was not on the podcast, but Connor and Dan, they had some guests on and they talked about other films of Spike Lee's, and a couple of them had Denzel in it, but we're going to be covering Inside Man and then also Mo Better Blues. And this will be an interesting conversation today when it comes to Highest to Lowest, because I told Dan right before we jumped on, I have only seen now 2 Spike Lee movies. I have seen Highest to Lowest, and then in our preparation for our upcoming episode, I watched Inside Man, which I really enjoyed. Inside Man, spoiler alert, but he's I don't know the name for it. I remember this in the back of my mind when I was watching these movies, but the certain, he has like this signature thing that he does where the camera, it's like it's very obvious in Inside Man. Yeah. Like it's not even like necessarily like, because the dolly zoom's like the Jaws thing, right? Where it like zooms in on Roy Schneider's face. It's like it's a combination of that, but it also feels like the actor is being pulled at the same time. Like the actor is moving while the camera is running. I don't know how to explain it, but
yeah, just a dolly shot, not a dolly zoom.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the camera's
Dolly
on
shot.
dolly, and yeah.
And maybe the actor's on the dolly as well, because I think the actor is moving with the camera at the exact same time. But yeah, two good movies. I liked Inside Man just a little bit more than Highest to Lowest, but yeah, I also the story of High and Low, which does carry over into this movie quite a bit. Very, very interesting. Moral dilemma, I would say, with our main characters in both movies. The in both films, if you didn't know, this is about a very wealthy man, one being involved in the music industry with Highest to Lowest, but then High and Low is about a shoemaker who is about ready to make a huge deal and get all this money together, buy more stock, more ownership of the company to hopefully take it over. And then all of a sudden he's told that his son is kidnapped. And he's like, well, I guess I'll just give all this money away to this kidnapper. But then you find out that might not actually be his son after all. And the moral dilemmas and issues that come with that situation. So I'll get into my thoughts first. I feel like I always pitch it to you, Dan. I like Tice the Lois. I think Spike does a lot of interesting things when it comes to filmmaking in this movie that really stood out to me. We talked about the score. Now, this movie is rich with music. Not just the score, but there's also, I think, original songs. There's needle drops. There's live music that plays. Particularly, my favorite scene of the movie is there's a train sequence that's also appeared in High and Low. But there's incredible train sequence where it's paired along with the celebration of, I think it's Puerto Rican Day, National Puerto Rico Day. Genius idea to do that. So I really love that. Score does get a little bit too much here at times. But I thought that it's interesting taking the story of High and Low and incorporating that into the 21st century. Especially what popped out the most to me was how would a child react to this? Like how would social media be a part of this? Because you get that a little bit in High and Low with like the newspapers dropping and what everyone's talking about. But I don't know. How did you think the changes came from High and Low to this? Like, did you like it?
In terms of like, how do I see the quality as like an adaptation?
Yeah. Did you like what it feels? Does it feel different enough?
Oh, I think it definitely feels. I think it feels different enough. I don't know if it that's necessarily always a good thing. I also enjoyed this. I think after finishing High and Low, it's tough not to drop it down a little bit. I took it down like a half star from 3.5 to a 3. I still enjoyed it. It's something I would still say go watch it in the theater, especially for Denzel. I think what Denzel is doing in this movie is like he's really carrying it. Like he's really busting his ass, I think, to carry it. The screenplay is not Spike. We talked about this. Someone named Alan Fox. Don't know who that is. They don't have a Wikipedia page. I don't think they have credits. Besides this, some of the scenes I think are really well written. I think some of the dialogue's really strong. I think, everything between Denzel and ASAP Rocky. I think he's really good in this. I
thought ASAP was great.
Yeah, he seemed like he was having a lot of fun. I think everyone in this feels like they're having fun, and I think that's kind of infectious and like makes me like the movie more. I think it feels like something made with a lot of like passion and love, and I think when I feel that, like that makes me just I'm gonna be kinder on a movie than when you feel something that's just really corporate, and fake, and I don't like that kind of stuff. But to get back to your question. I think the story, I mean, this is a timeless story, right? Like, I think when you're dealing with kind of class warfare, which really is what it is, and in economic insecurity, sort of, and how that can play out when people are desperate and people are maybe dealing with mental illness, whatever is going on. Like, I think that will always be a story that can be told. I think this new movie feels like it has a little bit of the teeth taken out. I think, and when you look, I was looking at Kurosawa talking about his movie. It is pretty firmly like anti-capitalist. Like I think it's not just saying, oh, you just need the right version of capitalism. It's saying no, like the whole system is pretty much corrupt and screwed, and this is what it does to people. Um, I think even in the title, High and Low, and that you have the juxtaposition of the house on the hill throughout the entire movie, and then throughout the movie, as you move slowly down that hill and start to see how people are living, and even just going from that, it's this really claustrophobic story in both of these movies. At the beginning, you're just in this room, and I feel like that room is very much representative of their life. It's very well organized. There's art, there's music, there's beautiful things, there's these well-dressed people, they have happy lives, and it's all very contained in this box, and there's nothing else. And then with the kidnapping, you get a tiny crack in that, and then as you come to understand the life of the person looking up at the penthouse, the story is kind of gets deeper and darker, but the original is just so much darker in tone. It's a lot heavier. This Highest to Lowest is like very much.
There's comedy in this.
It's I don't want to call it a comedy, but
the music really doesn't help out the fact, like sometimes like the needle drops or the score in the background, it doesn't feel like that dark of a movie, even
no, it's not.
If it is about a kidnapping.
Yeah, and I think the darkest stuff kind of comes towards the end. And obviously there is violence, but it's a very different tone, and I think with the change in the tone, it has a little bit of its teeth removed in terms of like how vicious it really wants to go after capitalism, and it's a movie made by Apple at the end of the day, right? Like, so
there's a lot of iPhones. There's a lot of
I'm almost glad it didn't do that, because it just becomes so hypocritical, and I don't like that. So
yeah, one thing that I think is really it's tough because we both watched both movies today, and there's things that I love about High and Low that I thought so interesting that it's just removed from this. And it's such a difficult game to play, because I'm like, do I want that in this movie, or am I glad they left it out and they did something different? And it's the fact that High and Low is very much an investigative story.
Yeah.
Like they're very thorough.
Detailed. Yeah.
Yeah. There's like a scene which is wild where it's like a 10-15 minute scene where you've seen all these evidence come in, and there's like a specific person for each part of this evidence that has come in. It's like, okay, what do we now know about the car? What do we now know about this guy? What do we know about the phone lines? What do we know about this? And I'm like, geez, like I feel like I'm with these guys. And that is something that really feels left out of this film. And I get why. It amazed me in High and Low that our protagonist, at least at the beginning, doesn't really pop up towards the second half of the film. It's more on the police. And in this movie, which it makes sense for 2025 and who's on the poster. It turns, you can't have the exact same story with the detective stuff because it's a Denzel show, and Denzel is not a detective in this. He is the millionaire, the billionaire.
Yeah.
So I missed that.
How did you feel? How did you feel about Gondo versus David King? Like, how did you feel about the characters? What do you feel kind of differentiates them? Do you feel they're very similar? Like, what was your kind of take on that?
I'm glad you brought that up, because that is my biggest issue with Highest to Lowest. I don't think that David King is written very well at all. And in High and Low, it seems like Gondo eventually gives in to giving the money to these kidnappers morally, because he realizes that's the right thing to do. And he does it. But then in Highest to Lowest, it seems like King does it because he's afraid of what people are going to think of him if he doesn't do it. And that's my biggest issue with this movie. It seems like he really cares about the money.
Yeah, and it's very much, it kind of seems more geared towards, everything kind of revolves around social media and backlash. And it's funny because I saw Spike Lee and Denzel talking about the concept of being canceled, doing press for this movie. And Denzel was like, you can't cancel me. He said, if I don't sign up, you can't cancel me. Like, basically saying,
he's
like if I don't play,
he said, I can't lose the game if I never signed up the players.
Yeah, like exactly. Like it's you can't cancel something you didn't sign up for. So kind of funny when you think about the movie. There are a couple things like that. That's kind of funny when you think about the movie. Like, the message of the movie is, all money isn't good money. I think that there's an interesting conversation there, I think, to have, because they've talked about this a lot too, and it's one of those things where Spike said Apple gave me a lot of money to make this movie. Obviously, in that deal is the fact that it's going to be a 3-week, I guess, theatrical release. The distribution is what was reported was 220 theaters, which is just it's nothing. It's not an AMC. So when I'm thinking about that, all money isn't good money. And it's a movie also very much about like creative passion and keeping that from High and Low, about like integrity, I feel, and having passion for what you're doing. In High and Low, it's the fact that he wants to make shoes that are quality, shoes that will carry people throughout their day, throughout their life. And I think with shoes are so important to everyone. Like a good shoe is something that you don't think about until you don't have it. Like when you get home at the end of the day and you're like, man, I've been walking on my flat feet, my back hurts, my neck hurts. Like when you don't have it, you notice it. And I think, despite the fact that he has so much, he's making a product that he wants to be somewhat affordable, but also quality. And he has people that are saying, on one side, let's make them just garbage and pump them out and we'll sell more. And then he has, the old man who runs the company who says, now let's make them super nice and uncomfortable, but they look great and they will last, but not have any style behind them. So he's kind of bridging that gap. But I think, in this movie, being in the music world, I think it's inherently different. I think, music obviously brings people joy, and I think he loves music, but he feels a lot richer and a lot more disconnected, sort of from people in the world, I think. And he seems to struggle a lot more with the decision, I think.
I'll say something I really liked when it comes to the shoe aspect with High and Low that's different than here, that I think just adds so much to the character and really brings the whole thing together, is there's that one sequence in High and Low where he because of his skill that he's acquired over the years, he's able to plant not tracking devices because it's the 1960s, but location devices in these briefcases. And I love the line. He says something like, I'm already going back to square one already, because he knows that this is what's going to happen because he's giving away all of his fortune. And I didn't necessarily. There's a sequence in this movie where they try to do that. It's when you get this conversation between King and his wife at the beginning where she says, you used to love music. You used to walk down the Brooklyn Bridge and I used to be late for everything, but you would come home and you would be so happy. And then they try to do that. But the things that happen beforehand, it doesn't seem like it seems like in High and Low, he's really enjoying what he's doing, right? He's going back to a passion. He was an apprentice. He's going back to his roots. And like you said, he seems like a better guy than David King. He just seems, even though there's the difficult question of giving up your fortune for a child that's not even yours, you can see this character doing that. But the way that King reconnects with his roots with walking on that Brooklyn Bridge, it seems out of necessity for the plot. And he's not like, he's not, it's over too quick. I wish that scene lasted longer and he was like playing through multiple artists, but he only goes to ASAP. What is it? Young Felon. He only plays Young Felon's track. And he's like, oh, I know who this is. And like goes right away. So I will say, I want to give this movie props for one thing. And it's something I don't know if you read my High and Low review. I know you just reviewed it not too long ago. There's one issue I have with High and Low. It's just like, I think it's a 2025 mindset. I don't know why I wanted this, because the whole class system and this person is poor, this person is rich. That's the crime that's involved with that makes complete sense, right? Tale as old as time, as you were saying. But I thought in some way that the antagonist of that movie was going to have something to do with the shoe company. And that's what even the police thought. They went to the executives and they're like, did you guys have anything to do with this? I wish it came back around. It's more so someone who is just living lower, looking at someone who is higher and just having that picture in their head every single day when they were cold, when they were hot, etc. But I like that in this movie, A$AP Rocky, Young Felon, is affected by whatever David King has done, and has affected him in some way. I like that little touch, that it does come back around.
Yeah, I think it is I think it is relevant to today. I think the music industry, the world of music today. It's a beautiful thing because there's a I'm not going to think of the term, a low. There's not a lot of barriers to I guess to entry, like, into the like market, like even back in years ago, stuff like SoundCloud, like you could blow up on SoundCloud and you could have a career, like now with streaming, if you have a track, and even if you're nobody, if you're able to market it, if you're able to use social media, if you know what you're doing, even if you're not the most talented musician, like you can find success in any genre, and you can have a moment, and then maybe you can turn that moment into something more. Um, so I feel like the movie kind of touched on like the desperation, and the way people maybe feel like there's so much competition, and like you can get noticed, and you see people kind of like throwing themselves at him throughout the course of the movie to like have a moment to get noticed, and you see you really feel like he has a lot of sway and can change someone's life. um, but that creates desperation, and we see that desperation played out in the movie, um, with ASAP Rocky. um, Something I will say, do you think Highest to Lowest feels like it has a little bit more contempt for ASAP Rocky and a little bit less pity? I feel like I think the character in the character in the movie is named Takeyoshi. He's
Mhm.
the guy who actually does the kidnapping, and it feels a lot more tragic. Like it feels a lot more sympathetic, and I feel like um, Gondo is not as much looking down on him and shitting on him as having pity and feeling like. And I feel like that closing scene really drives it home, and I think he's kind of dealing with his own feelings of you know why did this happen? How did this happen? Is there anything I can do? Like, should this person lose their life? Like, it's a much heavier ending, and I feel like with Highest to Lowest, they very much positioned it more so where Denzel's kind of like, I don't want to say talking down to him, but like sort
He
of.
does. I think the
I
movie ends. I think it doesn't end soon enough. I think you get a little bit. I completely agree. I think you get a little bit of that in the recording booth when Denzel's like, "What? Who are you? Like, what do you want?" Like he's trying to get the base. Like you didn't have a father, all this stuff, and it's unfortunate because Young Felon is such a caricature. He doesn't necessarily ever really get real, and I think that the movie should have ended a lot sooner because Spike does take a big swing at the very end, but I think it just dilutes any type of pity, that emotional feeling that you were really feeling at the end of High and Low when it comes to both characters and what they're feeling towards each other. But he out of left field, but Spike kind of like puts a music video into this this movie at the very end. I thought that was an interesting artistic choice, but
It just feels kind of funny. Like
yeah,
I
it's
just
tough.
yeah. And then
It's tough to have that
like it's
content
still
when it
then it
is a
goes on
comedy so
and
much.
still is effective after that. But like I just was like, why? Like, and I understand. I think he recorded that track for the movie. I'm assuming. So I guess maybe there's a deal where he needs a certain amount of like exposure for it, whatever. But I feel like it just kind of undercut how serious a moment that was and made it feel again more like comedic. Um, and I just thought that was frustrating. But I agree with what you said. I feel like he doesn't quite feel like a real person. He feels like a caricature. Like he feels so played up. And I think when you do that, you oversimplify it, and you remove like any nuance, and you remove any chance for like real empathy. And I mean, he shoots at Denzel, like, and I feel like in that moment it's just like, all right. I mean, he's obviously a piece of shit, but um, that just makes again. It takes the obscenely wealthy character off the hook in a way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the more I'm thinking about this, the more I'm getting a little upset with the movie. But
Uh,
it's a different movie.
well, I don't know. You looked at Wikipedia, but I looked at Letterbox. I thought I would mention this because I'm wondering what you would think about this. The man who wrote this movie, who's written nothing, is white. What do you think about that? Do you think it's all right? especially with the caricature that is young felon.
That's such an interesting thing.
Yes.
Um,
But
and see, my question would be, what was the process of this movie coming to be? Like, did Spike find the script? Like, was the script coming from someone at like that was already within? Like, was this Apple's movie? Like, I would love to know how it came to be. Um,
okay, can I clarify something real quick? I'll show the camera, but I think he's white because I remember you said that this guy didn't have a Wikipedia page. So when you go on Letterbox, this is like the only thing that pops up, and there's no information about the guy, and it's just some random white dude, and he's been an actor in some low budget movie that only 255 people have watched called The Eyes. So I am really curious who this guy is and where he came from and how this like came to be.
yeah,
What a
I'm looking at
mystery.
William Allen Fox.
Yes.
I'm on the Writers Guild of America site, and he doesn't have a picture. But to answer your question, I think it's weird. And I think it's weird mostly because of what you said with how that character feels. I don't know, but I think it's fair to talk about. I mean, the guys, I don't know. I think it's worth the conversation.
I like that whenever we talk about movies and stuff like this, I try because you watch movies a little bit before me. Pixel Screen or not Pixel Screen Media, who Allied Global Marketing. I've emailed you all like 3 times. You said you're gonna send me to movies early. Liars. But anyways, I do remember one thing. I think like right at the beginning of your review, I can't remember if you mentioned right at the beginning, or maybe I actually did watch some of your review, but you were talking about the age gap. And
A little weird.
Well, yeah, but then I thought it was very hilarious when it just comes to Denzel's age. And like you said, he is carrying this movie. I don't know if it adds to the goofiness I don't think it was on purpose, but there is a scene at the very end where King is chasing young felon, like running fast. And you can obviously see it's not Denzel. This dude's like booking it so quick. I will say Denzel does some physical acting in this, but there's obvious scenes where it's just like a way younger guy who's like 30 just booking it through the streets.
I mean, Denzel's 70 years old, and like
Crazy.
um,
He could probably pull a girl this young. I don't doubt it.
yeah, but it doesn't necessarily mean. And I get like in the movie he's supposed to be like this high-powered executive, but you also feel like they're like actually, I guess, in love. And I mean, I'm not telling someone a 39-year-old and a 70-year-old can't be in love, but like, I don't know. I also think of the performances here, Ilfinish Hadira, I don't think it's the strongest performance. I think you're also acting against like Denzel Washington, so it's not the easiest thing. I liked their chemistry. I just in the back of my mind was always like, this is a 70-year-old. It feels a little bit just strange, but
I will say one thing that I thought was also strange. Perfect that you just said that. Wouldn't you assume that whatever the resolution is at the very end of this movie, like the last couple scenes, like the sequence is like what the movie is supposed to be about, like what has happened in the movie culminates to this, and it's the fact that they have started a family business together. And I thought that was strange because for a good probably half bit of this movie, it feels like the wife and the kid are like out of it, and I didn't realize that what the events that was happening in the movie would culminate into them starting a family business together. I thought that was poorly executed.
like they were forgotten about for too long in the screenplay, and then they popped up.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I think it makes sense. I think your kind of way of thinking about it was he wants to work with people that he trusts and people that he maybe is on the same creative wavelength with. So I think like turning to his family makes sense. I mean, especially if he has the money to do it. I was okay with that. I also wanted to say I think Aubrey Joseph played his son at Trey. I think he did a really nice job.
He got a deep voice.
Yeah, he played Simba in the Broadway version of The Lion King. I guess he's done some stage acting. He was in the Cloak and Dagger show as well, which I did not watch. I'm trying to see what else he's been in. But I thought he was really good. And again, acting against Denzel is not an easy task.
We haven't talked about one character who's a pretty big deal in this movie because it's interesting how he's incorporated into the film, but it's Jeffrey Wright's character, Paul Christopher. He kind of takes on the role of there's like two people in High and Low that it's like he's a combination of. He is the chauffeur for David King, which aligns with what happens in High and Low is the chauffeur's son. That's okay. That's something I didn't like about this movie that I think, like I said, I wish David King was morally challenged more. It seems like when it comes to the money and when it comes to even getting his nephew back, it doesn't seem like he's challenged that much about it. And I think what High and Low does so perfectly well is that the fact that
it's his godson, right?
but it is okay. So they're not related.
I don't believe so.
I think you're right. I think you're right. My bad.
Yeah, he is his godfather, because they say that when they're at the basketball camp. So
okay. One thing I will say,
there are people that are very close, like they've known each other.
Which that doesn't. It's not the same in High and Low. It's just this guy's chauffeur. It does not seem like Gondo and the chauffeur are like good friends. It is someone who works for Gondo. Which here, Paul and King are very close. So I think that it's even more impactful in High and Low when Gondo gives up his wealth for this child.
Because there's less of a connection.
Exactly.
And it's more of a thing where I feel like he's just the guy's name I think is Aoki. Is that correct? Yeah, Aoki. So. He seems more just like kind of also like he'd go along with whatever Gondo says. It's just like, please help me, and if you can't, okay. But I feel like in both movies there's this economic divide, not only between the perpetrator and the main character, but also between the man whose son he's being asked to help and him. And it creates this weird power imbalance where if he said, no, I'm not going to do that, in High and Low, there wouldn't really be. I mean, the only court he'd be tried in is the court of public opinion, which I think in Highest to Lowest is obviously maybe more effective and fast moving. But they also talk about like, something else would come up and they'd forget about this in a week, which is, I mean, that's the news cycle, right? Like that's how things work now. But in High and Low, I feel like you feel much more that he could have gotten away with it, right? And it's really just like about respect and doing the right thing. So it's an interesting, again, very different movies at different settings and different kind of implications around them.
How did you? Because the Jeffrey Wright character was so interesting to me. So it looks like is he a practicing Muslim? It looks like. Yeah. So I think because of that, like Spike Lee does a good job in this movie, I will say, of incorporating racial stereotypes, like being racist towards people, but in a subtle way. Like he doesn't hit you over the head with it. But you have Dean Winters, so I think Dean Winters actually, the white guy. I think he does a really good job in this movie. Dean Winters does, but even like the other, I think it's very powerful that the other police officers who are black still do judge Jeffrey Wright, I believe, in a certain way because he is a practicing Muslim. Yeah, I think they're a little off-putting towards him too.
I think they also view him in a way as like, oh, he's been to prison. Watch out for that guy. He's a loose cannon. When in reality, he's just like emotional because his fucking son was kidnapped. Like anybody would be emotional. But even in that scene, there's a confrontation in like the parking garage, and they're kind of like in his face, and it's like he's like asking, "Am I being detained? Like what's going on here?" And he's just like expressing like how he feels. And I feel like that was pretty tense. But yeah, Dean Winters, I think, and another thing we should talk about is I think High and Low is, I would say, much more critical of the police. I mean, it's pretty damning. I mean, they use an addict as bait and let her die, essentially on purpose. When they're trying to bait him out at the end, like that is a knowing choice that they're going to allow those drugs to be given to like find out where this guy is going. And I mean, you can't really get much more evil than that. And I think it shows again the way that, the justice system will use people like, farm animals when they want to look out for the wealthy, right? And it's just another kind of bit of collateral damage. And I feel like that sequence with all the addicts there is like, it feels like you're watching like a zombie movie. It's like for a little bit, it's very intense.
Yeah, I just wish this becomes. I love the guy, but I don't like that Spike decided, or I guess the Alex, whoever the writer is, decided to make this the end of the movie like the Denzel Washington show. Like it felt so strange to me that he's chasing down ASAP Rocky and beating him up. I'm like, what are we doing here?
Well,
also, he's 70
did
years
the same
old.
thing with Gladiator 2. The final confrontation is him fighting Paul Mescal with a sword. I'm like, is there tension here? I don't know. Like,
is Denzel really that is he that tough? I mean, I mean, yeah, probably. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I think Denzel's a formidable guy. I think he's been around the block in his life, or at least presents himself that way. And I think it's not so much I didn't believe it, but also it's like a little goofy. Like he is 70. I don't know. I thought they do try to really de-age him sort of in the movie. He looks great, and he's acting with so much energy and doing so much emoting and like moving around. It's a very physical performance. So like you kind of forget, but yeah, with the physical stuff, it's also kind of hard. I mean, he's been very much, and he's been much more than this, but he's an incredible action star. I mean, I said in my video, I view the Equalizer movies as like the 1A to John Wick. Like they are. It's an incredible 1, 2, 3. They're all good to great. And he's an action star. I mean, The Book of Eli, Man on Fire, like he's done it time and time again. So I think maybe it's hard like to move away from that. But it's not like the movie's built around that. It's just like a couple scenes.
Yeah, I do think that the high-low just fleshes out the antagonist just way more. And I think that just not even having the main character there at all, or be essentially the beginning main character, I think like the lead detective becomes the main character towards the second half of High and Low. I think that's just so powerful. It just like it's the mystery is the main character of that movie. Like wherever the investigation goes, that's where we're gonna go. And I was expecting. How did you find the whole? All of a sudden, Young Felon is a big rap star, and there's people protesting outside of the court for him. I was like, I mean, I guess I don't want to be all nitpicky like Cinema Sins here, but I was like, okay, he's just like a big rapper now. I thought that was a little bit interesting.
Yeah, I think so. I think to me, I guess
he went viral.
Yeah, like I think the situation helped him blow up, and then it got more media attention. But like even something about that felt a little bit condescending to me. Like the person is named fucking Young Felon, and then you have all these people there, obviously that the movie's kind of making fun of because they're saying free Young Felon, and he obviously did something wrong. I just there's been a lot of situations where there's been a lot of more complicated circumstances around people being, arrested or how they're treated by the justice system. I just think again, it felt a little bit Eddington-ish to me.
I think it would have been interesting if there was some obscurity to whether or not he did it, which because he's saying I'm innocent. Well, no, you're fucking not, because we just saw that there's a whole load of cash in your place.
And again, when you make it that simple, you can't have empathy really for the character. And then where's the challenge in the story? I don't know.
Did you enjoy that train scene though? I know I mentioned it pretty passing, but I think that was kind of the highlight of the movie for me. Oh, also, it seems like Denzel at that moment decides to use film
when they go underground.
Yes, I really like that idea.
Yeah, I like that too. I like the sequence with the Puerto Rican Day celebration with the music. I thought that was wonderful. They had that was Eddie Palmieri, and also Rosie Perez and Anthony Ramos were there as themselves, which was fun. And that's one of those moments where I'm just the energy of this movie is so good, and obviously Spike loves New York City, even though he's from Atlanta. But I feel like that love was really obvious. It was a fun sequence. You know, I think the stuff on the dirt bikes went a little bit long. I think that sequence went on a little bit too long. It was a little bit repetitive, but overall enjoyable. One other thing, Ice Spice was marketed as being in this movie. She's not.
Dude.
It's not in the movie. I hate when they do that. Not that I like. You know, Ice Spice is cool. I wasn't like. You know, I think I was curious what her performance would be like, and I was like a little bit let down that like she's just there for a second, but
20 seconds maybe.
yeah.
I was like, I thought she was going to be the artist that popped up in the end. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Why? Now they were going more for like kind of like not a ballad, but it was kind of like a ballad. It was piano. So maybe Ice Spice and her genre of music necessarily wouldn't have fit that. That would have been wild. And all of a sudden she was just belting it out.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been any type of performance, I guess, but it was a nice scene at the end.
Yeah, I thought about the Ice Spice marketing thing too.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like someone out there was probably disappointed. Like, I mean, she has a lot of fans. I'm sure somebody was looking forward to it, but
A$AP Rocky, you do get a lot of A$AP Rocky in this. Fans of A$AP Rocky, and his song's good.
Yeah, and I just think like to me the scenes with him and Denzel like snapped me awake at time. Like I was like, this is compelling, and like the scenes with them, you know, the scene in the booth with them kind of like freestyling back and forth, like that could have felt
that was good,
so stupid, but it was good, and I
Denzel pulled that off really well.
Yeah, which is such a testament to him because like so many actors, that could have been like really poor.
I was so impressed with that.
Yeah. I think when you think about, I think Highest to Lowest is a solid, fun, good movie. I think when you think about what Kurosawa is doing, like thematically, every single theme he's dealing with feels a little bit either toned down or it's gone. And not every movie has to be some type of deep, layered masterpiece, right? Like I don't think that way at all. But I think you can't ignore that when you're looking at it comparatively. I also another layer of analysis that I can't do, but Kurosawa's movie was based on the book King's Ransom from 1959. So I don't know how different his movie is from King's Ransom, if thematically it's dealing with the same exact stuff that he is dealing with.
I just think the story in general, if people aren't familiar with it, which let's be honest, there's going to be a lot of people probably that are going to watch Highest to Lowest that have never seen High and Low.
Yeah.
It's from 1963. It's just a fact. So I think just the premise of, you know, this billionaire guy, whose son gets stolen, or kidnapped, and he has to give up the money. It's not his son. Like, that's just a compelling story. It's just an interesting story and then Spike does make the movie entertaining at bits. The movie does feel high and low. There are good bits. You're like, oh my gosh, this like train sequence is pretty good. And then like, motorcycles, that's okay. They're like, oh, the booth conversation between young Felon and King. What is this music video? What is this going on?
Yeah. And I just
did you think that like he was showing King his song? That's what I got from that. Because he's kind of a goofball and a dummy. Young Felon is. That's how his character is portrayed. So when they did that music video, I was just assuming that Young Felon had just rapped for King.
I don't know, dude. I was kind of sinking into my seat. I was like, it was interesting, but yeah, I just think, you know, these movies are very much in their first half, bar for bar, kind of similar, but so different at the same time. It is interesting. But yeah, I mean, I think you can enjoy both in different ways. I saw people saying, you know, that were really fundamentally against this being made. Like, I think that's kind of lazy. Like, give it a chance. You might not love it, but it's not like Old Boy level bad. So
know, I thought it was funny is I was telling Connor before our producer on this episode, Connor, who's watching from behind the scenes, how it's funny that it's called highest to lowest with like the number two, because it's like it kind of insinuates just a little bit that it's like a sequel, but obviously this is not a sequel to High and Low. I just thought it was interesting that he did that. But yeah, I think it does stand on its own. Obviously, the premise is similar, but like you said, second half completely different. It's entertaining. I like High and Low better. I think that's gonna be everyone's pretty general consensus that says watch both of these movies.
Yeah. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, like it's just, it's a story about how cutthroat the world is, right? And how if you want to choose the right path, you will pay. Like even with Gondo, like, he ends up in a spot where he's making less money, he's working for a smaller company. He feels more, I guess, professionally satisfied. He has less oversight. He's able to more so do his thing, but he has less for his family. He has less for his kids, and you have to be willing to take that trade-off if you want to do the right things. And I just think that's like I said, it's a timeless sort of message. And I'm glad this movie got remade now. Even if it didn't quite hammer that stuff, I think, some people will go back and watch the original, and it's a good thing. So,
like I said, it's really interesting to me to put this in 2025 or 2024.
Yeah, I think
like everything with social media
was a great choice.
Even if the score is a little overbearing at times.
Yeah, it really frustrated me because again, trust your actors and trust your dialogue. You don't need to play up emotion with music. Like, just let me sit with what's being said, and the stakes would feel higher. Everything would feel heightened. That frustrated me, but I tried to just tell myself this is what it is. I can't change. Just watch the movie for what it is. So,
which feels so drastically different than High and Low because there's barely any music at High and Low.
So
but when
quiet,
when it kicks in though, you're like, it really hits you because there's so little of it.
Yeah, he uses a lot of little sound cues for moments, and he goes back to a few of them, but it's a very still movie where everything is really carefully blocked and laid out. Like every shot's really carefully put together. It's also
everything in the house is so structurally it's so well put together. Like you saying, like blocking and framing, like you can see all the characters and all their emotions.
Yeah. And it feels really tense, and it feels really angry too. Like there's a lot of anger in a lot of the, a lot of the conversations and exchanges, and it's so different.
It's good.
Yeah.
How many of Kurosawa's movies have you watched? Because this, spoiler to people who I've just watched 2 Spike Lee movies. High and Low was my first Akira Kurosawa movie, but really enjoyed it.
It's my 5th.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I there's so much more to watch, and there's always more to watch. That's the game. So
right now there's not a lot of highest to lowest to watch in theaters. So everybody try to find this movie. I want to end this conversation with talking about my theater experience, Dan. So as Dan said, I go to AMC's, and this was not showing, which is wild to think about, is that it is not showing at any AMC's. So I went to the runtime that worked out best for me today, which was 125, because I watched High and Low this morning, and it was some random theater in Tampa, and I've never seen, people say malls are run down all the time. I have never seen a mall as run down as this mall before, Dan. There was 3 buildings, right? You know how little stores are right next to each other? There was 3 of them that was an insurance office in this mall.
That sounds depressing.
Yes, it was. I was honestly a little scared being in that mall. It was very dark. There wasn't a whole lot of people in there, and the people that were in there kind of just sitting in the corners sometimes. I'm like, all right. But I was going up this escalator, and also it didn't look like a mall from the outside. Usually malls are structured in a way so you can see the entirety of it.
Yeah.
It didn't look like that, so I didn't think it was a mall at first. But I went
It's kind
inside.
of like a back rooms feel to it.
Yes, yes. And I went up this escalator, and it was a food court. I no lie, 15 sections for food. Probably 4 of them were open,
Mm,
and the other ones were just shut down forever and ever. Amen. But you keep on walking, and it shows a sign for this movie theater, and it's pointing an arrow. And I'm like, awesome. The movie theater sign is not the same name as the movie theater where I got tickets from. So I'm like, is this the actual theater that I'm supposed to go to? So, anyways, I'm like, I'll just walk in here. Well, it's gated off. You can't get in there. So what I had to do is I had to walk. I kept on walking. I saw people walking to this one area, and I'm like, maybe I'll keep on walking that way. And it was the way out of the mall. And I was on the 3rd level, and I had to go into a parking garage. And then when you go into the parking garage, you circle around, and then you can get to the entrance of the theater, which was named something different. Inside of the mall, it was named something else. And in the outside, it was actually named what I bought online for my ticket. And their aesthetic, I feel bad because I go to AMC's. I'm like, support your local cinemas. Yeah, sure. I guess this was a local theater. They need some work. That's all I'll say. I won't throw out what the name of it was. But
yeah, don't dox them.
yeah, if they're listening, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That's quite the experience. I'm
I
sorry.
thought I was going to miss it because I knew we were recording tonight, and I know this movie's difficult to find. So I'm like, this could go bad. This could go poorly.
Yeah, malls have a lot of malls have a very like post-apocalyptic feel to them now because so much foot traffic is just gone from like storefronts like that, and it can be really depressing. So I totally get that.
Yeah, I made it though. I watched Highest to Lowest, and hopefully a lot of other people did too. We both think this is a good, entertaining movie. Not as good as High and Low. It doesn't have the same highs as High and Low, but entertaining nonetheless. Spike Lee, great director. Denzel Washington, okay actor.
Yeah, he's all right.
Can rap on cue though, which was sick.
Yeah.
He's pretty good at it. But if anybody out there has watched Highest to Lowest and is watching this episode, please let us know what you thought in the comments wherever you're listening to or watching this. But until our next review next week, whatever that will be, please stay safe, go outside, watch Highest to Lowest again if you want. We'll see you then.